Can you please show me a live demo of you using the Figma variable API? I just want to see like how you like in real time would use it to make these updates.
I'm going to go into the design tokens file. So this is the single source of truth file that we house all of our design tokens, which are called variables. So from your local branch, you can open up the variables and I'll just navigate over to where the button colors are located in. So this is the primary button background. Let's make it the most crazy. So like now I've made the change in my branch. I have the VS Code open right now. So I'm going to run the API call using our yarn generate script. It should pull in from my local branch. So you can see it's working because it's outputting these style sheets right here. And there you have the crazy blue button that we just updated.
Love it.
And if I want to do it for the secondary one to show you again, let me just open that up. So I'll go back to button and secondary background is white. What's the worst color that could go with that blue? It's probably red. So let's make it red. We'll run the API call again to bring in that more recent change. We see that it's working out, and you see we have a crazy red and blue buttons.
Howdy, folks. This is Shay, and welcome to another deep dive where we go into the Figma files of top designers. Today with me, I have Jenny, who is gonna show us an in-depth look into the design systems for my favorite airlines, Southwest Airlines. Jenny, so stoked to have you.
Really excited to be here. Thanks so much, Jay.
So, quick rapid fire so the viewers can get an understanding of how big the design system for Southwest Airlines is. First of all, what is it called? What do you call the Southwest Airlines design system?
So it's called the Heart Design System, and it is a long-term project that we've been doing for a while, several years in the making now. For us, it started with creating reusable components in the code. And then now we have this whole collection of components in the code. Meanwhile, on the design side, they didn't really have components there until, getting into Figma and being able to componentize those properly as well. And so putting that together in the past couple of years, working alongside the design team to create components in Figma that match the components in the code across multiple platforms, responsive web and native Android and iOS, has been a huge undertaking, but we have been doing it pretty successfully. We do have completed or near completed UI kits for all of those platforms that we use. And at the center of it is design tokens. The shot that you're looking at right now is the goal of that was to make a single source of truth that all three platforms could draw from.
So right there, I love the name Heart. It's such a beautiful name, Heart Design System. How many roughly do you think there are components in this design system? Rough number if you can think of.
Rough number of components. So probably for responsive web around 50, and for the native platforms each, maybe around 30 each. So maybe a little bit more than, let's say, like 100 altogether in terms of like actual core components for each platform.
Got it. And how many people are working on this design system? Is it like 100 people or like 10 people or?
I mean, look, so it depends per platform, but for responsive web, which is the platform that I've been working on, we haven't had more than maybe one or two developers dedicated to this at any given time for the past couple of years since we started implementing this and integrating it. So that's like two maybe full-time dedicated developers we've had on this project at any given time for the past couple of years.
Oh.
And we've done a lot despite the fairly limited amount of people we have dedicated to this.
That's amazing. So can we just get like a quick preview into some of the different components in the Heart Design System? I mean, I'm just getting like really excited to click on maybe the colors page there or maybe something else you've got there, just to kind of give an idea to the viewers of the different things that are part of this design system?
Yeah, sure. So here is the library, the Figma library for our responsive web components. And if I just pull down this over here, you can see the components listed on side over here. So, then also we have a section for just general principle kind of stuff like color and typography. And if we go into one of these, you can see we have variants for each of the buttons that we use and patterns. And then some of the platforms even have more documentation. Like if we go into the Android one, we have the variants, but we also have patterns and usage guides and then accessibility guides. So that is definitely something that,
Question.
yes.
The documentation for this components, is it like lives in Storybook or does it live in Figma? Where does it live?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So right now it depends per platform, but for responsive web, so we have it in both places. So we have documentation. Some of it is here, like you can see in the description. Some of it is in the patterns. And let me try to find one um, with more detail to it. So if I go to here, you can see some of these states and so these are defined in Figma as a result of designers working together with our accessibility team. So this is our storybook that is deployed internally. So we have, as you could see, a equivalent list of components off to the side here. And a big project that we were doing in responsive web for the past year is just going through each of these one by one and working with the design department in order to make an equivalent component, a reusable component in Figma to be like a one-to-one match with each of these. So if, like you can see, if I go into the button here, you could see the variants. And yeah, so Storybook is like what we use more for developers and for testing. And that's why it doesn't look so pretty. And there's so much in the UIs because a lot of these are purely for testing snapshots, making sure that when you change something and we rerun the testing platform, it doesn't make unintended changes somewhere else. So that's what we use Storybook for. But in Figma, it's more to define the look of the component.
Got it. Do you feel that because you have the documentation also in Figma, it helps the designers quickly get an understanding of the different components and saves them time of not having to go to like Storybook every single time they want to use a component?
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of one of the benefits and the drawbacks of having separate design systems for both designers and developers is that each has their own preference of which platform to use. But ideally, you'd want one where everybody can just, jump in and find a list of components from one place. And we are, definitely in the process of at least ideating that out. Definitely, it's far from the finished stages, but that is our goal, to have a fully comprehensive living style guide where it's a reference for both designers and developers, not just how Figma serves as a reference for mostly designers and Storybook for developers. But we want to make it so that there's one place where everyone can go.
Got it. How do you measure the success of the hard design system? The CEO comes in and they're like, all right, Jenny, let's measure the success of the hard design system. What would you tell them?
Yeah, and that's always a pressuring question. So in terms of measuring success, since it's been relatively recently that we have started measuring numbers for the design system because it wasn't integrated until maybe a year or so ago. But we did recently release a survey an internal survey, and I can share some of the results with you. We sent the survey to 145 people and we got 31 responses, which isn't, the most amazing response rate ever, but it's definitely better than nothing. And some positive signs were that almost half of the responses said that the Heart design system saves them at least 4 hours of work per sprint, and 84% overwhelmingly said that the Heart design system is positively contributing to their work. And then on the flip side, 61% said they don't have a specific example of the Heart design system making work significantly easier. And this is something that I have heard a lot of other design systems have a problem with, that even if they are making really great strides and actually helping people and creating real value, because they don't advertise themselves, then people don't know that they are, or they think that they're not. So that's why I put together this case study stack. And
If you can go back to the survey result where it said that people are saving 4 hours of work,
yes,
right here, who are these people that are saving 4 hours of work? Is it developers? Is it designers? Is it a mix of both?
I don't know specifically the roles of people who said that, but this was sent out to both developers and designers. Yeah. And I know for developers, just a visual example of how this helped is, before we had a semantic palette, there was no way to ensure that a color in one design was the exact same color as in the source design, because every time you create a new file, if you change a color in the original file, the new file doesn't get that update because it's not referencing the same color. So developers were all the time finding that some designs were saying to apply a color that didn't actually exist in the code base, or a color that didn't match some other design, and there were inconsistencies all the time. And tickets just went back and forth for weeks over such a simple thing as apply this color. And it was very frustrating, and it wasted a lot of time. And it was just really not a great experience. So the implementation of the semantic color palette using design tokens pretty much immediately got rid of that entire problem, because when we ensured that we are using a single source of truth of one palette.
Can you show that, like how you're using semantics, standardize the color tokens all across all the different Figma files? Like, can you show how that looks? Okay.
So here's what that whole palette looks like visually. And so the semantic palette, it's called semantic because it's based on functionality as its classification. So these roles are going to be similar across pretty much almost all UIs on the web. Like if you look at success is usually green, danger is red, and warning's yellow. Primary for us, our primary color is blue based on our brand. Same with secondary, it's based on our brand yellow, and tertiary is based on our brand red. And then we have a neutral palette. So the fact that we switched to defining these as design tokens means that every single design is now referencing the variables in this file, which I show right here, exactly where they are in the file in here. So in here, you could see them all listed in our system palette layer, and you can see the primaries just in a row right here, just the same as I showed you. So these are all available across the entire Figma workspace for every designer to reference, and we do ask that they use the colors in this palette. So once they do that, if we ever change one of these color values, like if we change the hex code of this blue, or something else to be brighter, darker, to be more accessibility compliant for whatever reason, or if we add a new one, every single file that references that color will get the update immediately on opening, and they won't have to talk to us. They won't have to ask any questions about it. They won't even have to think about it. They'll just get the update, and the developers who are referencing these, because we then implemented these same values in the code base according to this nomenclature with the naming, the developers can just consume these changes via API call, which I can also show you later. And then once they consume the change, they just merge it and that's it. And developers don't have to ask designers, hey, so what exactly did you change this to? Like, I need to double check. Nothing like that. You just pull it in and it's exactly as it's intended to be. So that pretty much got rid of the entire confusion of like manually applying colors overnight. And all right, so okay, so this is our responsive My Account designs, and this is what the user sees when they go into their personal account information, and you can see your saved flights and everything like that. So if I select this button element and I can see it over here, it is mapped to semantic palette secondary 500. So that is exactly one of the semantic colors that I was showing you. And you can see this text is primary 200. Let's see anything else that can. This button is primary 200. Our header bar is primary 500. So neutral 900 for the white. So yeah, ideally all of the elements, or as many as possible, are correlated to a semantic color palette. And so the developer, because we have this system in the code, they don't even have to like ask questions about it because the syntax matches. They just know, okay, neutral 900. Okay, I'm just like type that if I need to apply a color style, and that's it. And it's not up to the developer anymore to interpret or figure out the closest or most correct color if the one in the design is not existing in the code base or is not matching their expectation, and create all this wasted time and confusion. It's like, this is the color you're supposed to use, and if it is not mapped to anything, then that goes back to the designer, because they are the ones who originate the mapping, and the developers are not, that responsibility is not on them anymore, which is really great for developers. Yeah.
So what I like here, Jenny, is that you've not just mapped all the colors to like variables and tokens, but you also done that same for the typography. Like if you were to randomly click on any of the text here in this design file, then it's probably going to be mapped to some typography token, correct? So let's just click on one of the text here.
Yeah, so that's the goal. And so I've selected this heading text. And so you can see here it's using the text style of Next Gen Small Screen Extra Large. And if I select the text underneath, it's using a body X large, and text in here, this one's not mapped, but let me see it. This one's using a label small. And then like I showed you in before, the type ramp, those are directly correlated to these guidelines here, where, yeah, so we have the label and the legal and the body text here. And then you can see all of these in the sidebar here where we've defined them. And if I open this up, you can see that these are all of the design tokens assigned to a specific text style, because for typography, it's a little bit different than color, because design tokens right now, they can only be assigned to one value per token. So, but a text style is usually comprised of several different types of values. And so then if you assign the design tokens to a text style, you can apply several things at once. And it's a lot easier than expecting a designer to memorize, apply these 5 different design tokens every time you want something to match our brand. So you could see for our body extra large, that applies a design token font family and a font weight, and then the line height and the font size. And you could see that they're design tokens because they have a little box around them. So that's a really nice way to apply several design tokens at once.
Got it. Now, a question for you is, let's say a design systems person creates all these tokens, variables, and their team of designers is still not using it. And they complain to you, Jenny, I did all the work, I stayed up all night, but no one's using it. What would you suggest to them, or what did you do to increase the adoption of design systems across Southwest Airlines?
Yeah, and we are still trying to figure that out for sure. But some of the strategies that we do, so we have design system office hours that we conduct every single week as like an open forum for any developers who or designers who want to come and ask questions. So that is a weekly recurring meeting. And then we have had UI community of practice where it's more like a monthly or every 2 months presentation where we show new features that we're adding. We've created a regular sprint cadence where at the end of each sprint, the designer posts up all of the updates to the design system that we have been doing. And so it's like an organized kind of like news blast of changes where people can check what's new in the design system. And we do onboarding where we sit down one by one with the designers. And because it's really important to get the designers onboarded, because that's where all of the designs define everything that the developers have to implement. So if the designers implement design tokens as intended, all the developers have to do is, copy and inspect these values. But if the designers aren't applying things, then the developer is just kind of going to give their best guess on what to do. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants the developer to be taking a guess at like visual things because usually it does not turn out too good.
Well, my complaint would be if I have to onboard designers one on one, isn't that a lot of time? Like, because I got to onboard them, I got to walk them through it and all these things. Or do you create an onboarding document that you reuse?
Yeah, so we did create an onboarding process, and let me show you that. Okay, so this is an example of onboarding, and we've done this twice now, technically, this whole process for both colors and typography, and I'll show you the typography one here. So each time we split up the designers, of which there are, a few dozen designers, but we split them up into groups by what big projects they're generally currently working on so that they have some kind of project in common and working relationships with each other. And then maybe around groups of, I'd say like 7 people or so. And then we did maybe like 5 to 7 sessions. So we conducted that over the course of a couple months. And we had several documentation that we created, including this one for typography onboarding, where we have all of the instructions and visual guides on how to select stuff in the flyout. And it's also directly referencing the type ramp, which is the source of, how we're supposed to be defining things. And so we have this document for written documentation. We have visual screenshots. We created a video recording of me selecting an element and then applying the text style to the elements, which we played during the meeting. And then right after that, we kind of pop quizzed them on, okay, can you guys just, do this, demonstrate that you know how to do this by showing us doing one of these like text elements on this design. And so, not gonna lie, some people do not like being pop quiz or put on the spot, but it's, it's a small group, it's a safe group. They're not being graded, or they're not getting like punishments or prizes either way, except for, knowing that they are able to apply the new skill. And the key is that I think that just doing it on the spot just helped reinforce the learning so much better, because after they see one person just apply this here, everyone else is watching very closely because they're all thinking in their head, like, oh, like, what if I'm next? Like, what if I have to do this next time? And so immediately that turns on the part of their brain that's kind of like, um, stimulating and reinforcing and memorizing the process. And so that really reinforced learning better.
So in this pop quiz, there are some elements that don't have typography tokens assigned to them. So if you were to do this exercise now, you would just identify an element, maybe like show fares and points, and assign an element to it right now. Would that be correct?
So I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. So if you click on an element and it does have a text style already applied, then you'll see it just a single line over here, and it matches the place in the type ramp that you saw. But if you click on one over here, you'll see it just has a bunch of disconnected styles and it's not really mapped to anything. So first of all, we want to make sure. So the process we told them is, all right, first of all, what screen size are you in, just to make sure that in case it's a header, you're in a tablet. Okay, so what is the type of text that you're selecting? This looks kind of just like, page body content. Let's go in the type ramp, and then you look at the different groups. So you see display, which is usually for more like placements or advertisements, labels, which is more like details. That could be one of them. Body, that could also be one. Details, that's more like very small text that we want to apply to like conditions and stuff, and same with legal. So we could do one of these groups. And I would encourage designers, if they don't know exactly, to ask like a higher up designer or apply what you think the functionality makes the most sense for. So to me, I usually just go for the more generic case, which is body. So if this matches one, then that is good to me. So I look at what the hard-coded style is. So this is 16 pixels right here with the line height of 24. If I go back into the type ramp, does that have a close match? Yes, and it has a match of extra large, 16 pixels, 24, and it has both a bold and a regular. We just need the regular version. So we just need to find body, X large. So I go back to here and I go look for that. So I say body X large, search for that, and it comes up with the two options, X large and X large bold. And I apply that, and there you go. It is now successfully mapped. And that's it. And so we just had people do that with different elements on page, depending on where it is and what it is. It'll be a different grouping, and headings have like a slight extra step to them. But I think people picked it up really quickly, especially after the pop quizzing.
Wow. I love it. You aced the pop quiz. I mean, you also created it,
Exactly.
so.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. I love, Jenny, how you have this exercise-based approach where you make the designers learn by doing. I wonder if you have any other exercises that you make the developers do as well, just like you made the designers do.
Yeah, so actually we have a exercise that developers do regarding designs that we just recently implemented. It's called the component taxonomy exercise. And so I'll show you right up here. All right, so I just opened up the file of one of the actual applications that we applied this to in Rapid Rewards Enroll. So here you could see the design before anything was done to it. And then here you could see the design with the redlining and stuff on it. So I'll just explain the point of the taxonomy exercise is, so that developers can go through a design and get proper requirements and expectations architecturally and organizationally for components that are required of a new design. Because the great thing about it is that this process can be done when the design is not yet finished. So it allows to save a lot of time. The design can be anywhere from like mid to late stage, but regardless, developers can still go through it and do this process. And the reason for that is that for designers, it may be, important to define like the proper spacing uh and like what colors and styles things are. But for developers, it's much more important to understand the architectural requirements in terms of um, where components need to live and if new components need to be created, because that is what it takes up most of the time, is organizing everything and making sure that it's in its proper place. So the basic process of this is that you take the design and developers will go through with some leads, probably on my team Phoenix, and then just go through each component in the design one by one and add red line blocks around it to indicate what needs to be done with the component. So if it's red, you'll see that needs to be created. It's like a totally new component and where it needs to live. If it's orange, a component may exist, but it might need updates to it. And if it's blue, then that's, we already have that component and we're going to use the existing component. So they just go through every single one and just label what needs to be done. And then you have a list of all of these new components to be created over here. And then from this list, you can create Jira tickets and assign story points for how much work is expected for creating each of these. So you can effectively create an estimation of the amount of work required to build the application before the design is even complete and while the design is being completed. And also it can allow developers to bring up questions about design inconsistencies. Like, let's say if the design is just moving super fast and you see a component that has some, similarities to an existing component, but you just want to check, hey, is this supposed to be a totally new variant, or is this just like an oversight and is supposed to match like an existing one? And so this process can help bring those things to light before the designers, feel like they finished everything and are handing it off. And it just saves a lot of time, and it allows people to have a lot more accurate expectations of the amount of work that needs to be done.
So questions for you. When I see the new components to be created, how do you decide that, hey, these components should be now part of the design system, or maybe this is just a one-off and the developers just need to go off and start building those components?
I think that if they are so different than the existing ones to the point where they would need to be categorized functionally in a different package, like our packages are organized by functionality. Like if they have, so these look like they're personal info. If all of these may look similar to other form fields, but if the other form fields are all used for something other than personal info, we should organize them in a different package. So it's definitely by like their intended functionality that we want to sort them out.
Got it. You mentioned Jira ticket. Can someone just create a Jira ticket and be like, Jenny, can you create, this is a Jira ticket for creating a new component or something?
Yes, definitely. And also you can create Jira tickets to just request design system updates for styles and
Wow.
yeah, and if you create a Jira ticket to update a style that is a design token and you change that in the design tool, that change can flow through the process and just get consumed by developers on the other side, which I think is the coolest part of having a integrated design system. And I can definitely show you that as well.
Yeah, I just want to see like how that process works where someone submits a Jira ticket saying, Jenny, we need this new component build, and how do you go from there?
Yes, for sure. And I have a little chart thing, and I can show you real quick how that works on a high level, and then I'll show you actual demo. So here's the design tokens workflow. About first, you define the tokens, the values in Figma, like if they're colors, and then we import and format them into the code base using Style Dictionary, which is a third-party library originally developed by Amazon. Now it's open source. And then after that, we output them into style sheets per platform, and then just format them across all of the platforms and across Figma. So what that actually looks like is that, let's say this is an example of our Jira board in our design ops board. So for example, Chrissy, who's the design systems designer that I work with all the time. So she made a ticket that was to change the secondary button outline stroke to blue across the applications. So because we have the button design tokens already in the file, she just had to go into update the design tokens file, as you can see here, going into the button group, updating the foreground color, and then I pulled in the changes using the Figma variables API call by running a command that we assigned the scripts to run the API call, and you can see it outputting the style sheets over here. And then this was the merge request that I made to actually merge the changes into the code base. And then you can see what the diffs look like over here. So, and yeah, so that this is really great because the designer can make changes to update the code without having to directly interface with the code or requiring engineering support, which is the coolest part, because usually there has to be such a tight dependency of, okay, designer needs to tell the developer, but what if the developer didn't understand correctly, or they're, on vacation or something? But no, but like this is the designer makes the change and it just gets pulled into the code on the next update. And it's that simple.
This is insane. Can you please show me a live demo of you using the Figma API? I just want to see like how you like in real time would use it to make these updates, if you can.
And that's my favorite part of it. So first, I'm going to go into the design tokens file. So this is the single source of truth file that we house all of our design tokens, which are called variables. And like I showed you, we have tons of collections in here, but each of them serves different purpose at different layer. Now, we have two editors for this, which is me and Chrissy. And so that is because since this is a global library, we don't want any unintended changes to get merged to it accidentally. So we review every single change, and that allows us for a lot of control and peace of mind. And that's why I love the branching process in Figma. So how we would create a branch. So let's pretend that I'm a developer who wants to make this change to update the color. So I just create a branch, and let's just call it Figma demo branch. So now this branch is pretty much like a local copy for you that you could do anything to. So you're an editor of your local branch, even if you're not an editor on the main file. So from your local branch, you can open up the variables and I'll just navigate over to where the button colors are located in. And I click on the buttons right here, and then I see all of these, and I can choose whichever style type I want to update. So we have the branch set up right now. Now I'll show you on the code end how to preview these changes locally.
Did you make any changes in the button? I think
I
you didn't
did
make
not.
any changes, did you?
I did not yet. I'm going to set up the application and then I'm going to make the change so you can see it happening live.
Okay.
So I have the VS Code open right now, and to one of our applications that's already in production called Gift Card. And so I'm going to also open up our design tokens library, which is the library that houses all of the style sheets that are outputted after the API call is made. So I'm just going to link up. That's going to link up this app to our design tokens file, and then our design tokens repository. And then I'm going to start it up so that you can see these changes being made live from Figma. You can see this is running locally on my machine, and these are the buttons. So I'll just let you know, this is a primary, or this is a secondary button, and I believe this is possibly primary on our app. We'll try this out and see if we can target this button in gift card. So now that we have the app up and running and we have it connected to the design tokens library, we can start making changes. And one more thing that I want to show is that in Storybook, we have documentation for developers to learn how to do this by adding new package design tokens and collections. So it tells you how to create the account, add permissions, and create branching. So this information is openly available to them. But going back to Figma, so this is the primary button background. Let's make it the most crazy blue. Like, let's make it aqua. Yeah. So like now I've made the change in my branch. In order to test the branch, I need to put the branch key in the API call. So I'm just going to copy the link and use my browser as kind of like a text editor. And it's the part after the branch word. So I'm just going to copy that and then update my API call in the repository configuration of the script, and then put that right over here. So now we're using the branch key instead of the main files. So now that we have that loaded up, so I'm going to run the API call using our yarn generate script. And it should pull in from my local branch. So you can see it's working because it's outputting these style sheets right here. And there you have the crazy blue button that we just updated.
Love it.
And if I want to do it for the secondary one to show you again, let me just open that up. So I'll go back to button, and secondary background is white. What's the worst color that could go with that blue? Is probably red. So let's make it red. And then we'll run the API call again to bring in that more recent change. We see that it's working. And so it should, since this is hot refreshing, it should update the styles once it pulls that in. There it goes right now. And you see we have a crazy red and blue button. So this is how you can test out changes locally. So from there, if I wanted to make these changes, so I can just look in the changes and you can see that it automatically just like replace the old styles with the new colors. I would just commit these and make a merge request like I showed you before. And once it gets approvals, it can get merged. That's how you merge it on the code side. From the Figma side, you also need to do a separate merge into this file, which obviously I'm not going to do, but I'll show you how that looks. So review and merge changes. So I would just go into this person's branch and then it'll say, all right, this was changed in this way. Yellow was changed to blue for primary, and then secondary, what was changed to red. So that's the changes. And if I was satisfied with that, then I would merge the branch, which I'm not going to do because I don't get fired. But yeah, so that's exactly the process of it. And then this branch would just get merged into the main file, and those changes would show up here. So that would be pretty much how you do it. I know there were some people who are disappointed that Figma Variables is the paid feature, but it's not completely true because you can test it out for free by yourself for right now. And I know this because that's exactly what I did. When we did not have Figma Variables, I just used the developer docs. And so you could just go to Figma developers website and the get local variables section. If you go down a little bit, it has a try it out for yourself section where you can immediately generate a personal access token, a temporary one. It'll last for maybe up to 24 hours, I think. But then you can use it to run in the curl command and put the file key and the variable and test out the variables API. And you can run it in the browser or you can run it in your terminal. So that's just a really easy way and free that you can do this right now. Like you could try before you buy. You can make a POC, show your manager, show your team, whoever, which is exactly what I did in order to be able to get us to adopt this feature. And I would highly suggest it because it's really fun to see all of the response data come back of all of the design tokens. And then from that point on, you can do whatever you want with it, format it, use some of it, not use whatever you don't need. So I really encourage people to just do this on their own right now.
Amazing. I'm curious to know if developers on your team, do they even use Figma Dev Mode?
Yeah, absolutely. So developers on the application teams get the most use out of it. And that's because they're the ones implementing the design specs all day. So I'll show you exactly how they would be using that. Let me just go. So yeah, I'll open up a random native design, which is we've had really positive responses from our native teams about using dev mode and how they really like it. So I'll show you. So right now I've put it in design mode and I'll just show the contrast of the difference of it. So let's say that I'm a developer that is not familiar with Figma, right? And I want to find something out about this, calendar day element. And I'm clicking here, but it seems like nothing's happening because this parent element, which is containing it, is not like letting me select it. And so at this point, I would have to go and research how to get the information for this thing or go digging into the layers over here, being unfamiliar with the design. It's very frustrating experience for someone who's not familiar. If you're a designer or someone familiar with the Figma interface, you can do stuff like, command clicking nested child elements to bring all the information up. You can option click to find all of these red lines instantly, but you have to know that already. It's like, it's not very friendly to someone who's just got here and say they just got an account 2 seconds ago and they're trying to figure out how to get very simple information. That's where dev mode comes in really handy because it just takes that friction away. So let's switch to dev mode. And now if I'm looking for the exact same information here, it's already highlighting nested child elements for me. And if I click on one, it does already click the nested child element of the specific day. And I can see all this information in the sidebar. If I click an element like this, it shows me so much information over here. Like it showed me a preview of the original component. It shows me variant information. It shows a box model, which resembles a CSS box model for, padding or margin information that you might want to directly apply in your style sheet. And it shows you all of the design tokens. The design mode shows you design tokens as well, but not as detailed of information, and it also shows you related assets. And it allows you to do a level of code generation using different platforms. Like if you want to use like iOS or Android, you could do that, and then or just normal CSS. So, and you also have like a little sandbox you can open and just kind of mess around with different settings. So it just gives a lot more information, makes it more readily available to someone in an easier way, in a more accessible way than design mode does for someone who's not familiar with it. And you could see like all of the components over here and the specs. So it pretty much expedites the development process for developers and just makes everything easier. So that's why I think that our devs really like it.
Jenny, thank you so much for coming on Deep Dive and sharing your design system insights with the design community.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really, really awesome to do this with you, Jay. And I just really hope that people don't just watch stuff in here. They take the walkthrough and they take the steps and they just go do it, because it's really like not as complicated or as difficult as you're afraid that it is. And I just really hope people start using these tools like today.
Hey folks, this is Jay. It means the world to me that you watched this video. Let me know in the comments what topics you want me to cover in the future, and I will see you in the next deep dive.